receive your MPK Custom Calls short reed Canada Goose call, it comes with a hand cut and a hand shaved reed. And the reason for the reed being shaved is to give it a little bit of extra flexibility towards the tip of the reed, which significantly improves the sound that the call is able to generate. You'll need, in all probability, to run the call for a week or two, or to give it a couple of hours of running time, however that happens, in order for the reed to begin to flex a little. You might find in the beginning that it's a little bit stiff, but it will soon loosen up with a bit of loose, become more flexible. Now, what I'm about to show you, we talked long and hard about actually not doing this. When you get your call, it's correctly tuned. But as with all things in life, nothing lasts forever, and it is quite possible that over a significant period of time, your MPK Custom Calls short reed Canada Goose call might lose its tune. That can happen for a number of reasons. The call might get dropped, you might be using it an awful lot. Whatever the reason, an out of tune Canada call simply won't work. Now, what I'm going to demonstrate to you is how to reset the reed. Now, my advice to you is, unless it's absolutely necessary, unless the quality of the sound of the call deteriorates so significantly that you can't play it, my advice to you is to leave the inside of the call alone. Don't do this. However, because at some point the call might end up slightly out of tune, and you're a bloke, and at some point I know you're going to take this apart, I'm going to show you now how to disassemble it and correctly reassemble the call to get the best out of it. As with all the other call assembly and disassembly, if you twist the two parts when you take them apart, and you will see that you've got, as with most other calls, the three component parts: the tone board, the wedge, and the reed. Now, the reed has got these two little slots in the back end, and those two slots fit on the two pegs at the back end of the tone board. You'll see that the reed has been hand shaved, and that shaved area always goes upwards. To reassemble the call, particularly after you've cleaned it, or the call, its tuning has slipped a bit, it's a relatively straightforward mechanical procedure, but I need to explain to you precisely where the reed needs to sit. Now, this is something that I'm quite used to doing, but I can tell you that it's quite an interesting experiment and quite an interesting experience the first time that you try and put one of these calls back together. And you'll be lucky if the plastic component parts don't go flying about all over the place. But you'll get over that. So here we go. You sit the reed on the tone board with the two slots cut in the reed located on the two posts. Fair enough, not rocket science there. But it's this end of the reed that's critical. And this end of the reed needs to fit ever so gently, ever so closely into the actual depression on the tone board itself. If you push it too far forward, and the distances that we're talking about in moving the reed they're not quite microscopic, but they're very small. I've just moved that forward almost an imperceptible amount, and that reed is now actually sitting on the end of the tone board, and I cannot depress it into the hole. But if I very gently release the pressure with my thumb and forefinger on my left hand, I can just slide the reed back until the tip just drops into that depression. And at that point, if I replace the wedge, taking care to get the wedge round the right way, which I'm having some difficulty in doing. There we go. That's the correct way round. And it isn't cooperating. I said this was fiddly. So we'll get there in the end. That's what you're looking for. Now you have to make sure that the end of the reed is fitting correctly into the end of the tone board. Place the wedge and slide the assembled parts together thusly. And if you leave the sort of distance that you see there, which is about, I don't know, 1/4 inch, that the wedge, the reed and the tone board have been inserted into the mouthpiece itself. If you put it about there, that should give you the right sort of tone. If you have it protruding significantly more than that, the amount of pressure between the component parts will be significantly reduced, and the reed might actually end up moving simply because it's not been pinched tight enough. At that point, you then need to check to make sure that the tip of the reed is still able to be depressed into the channel on the tone board. And the real acid test then, and I've no idea whether this is going to work or not, is to simply reassemble the call using the mark on the outside of the mouthpiece as the maximum. Don't try and push it in beyond that. I think everything's in the right place. Let's see how it sounds. Yeah, I was fairly lucky there on that occasion. Having had lots of practice doing this, I did in fact manage to get it back together on the first occasion. It may well happen that you'll want 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes 10 attempts, particularly if you're not used to this, in getting the reed assembly back in the correct place. But once you've understood it, once you've mastered it, it's a relatively straightforward procedure. And as I said from the outset, my recommendation is that unless you really have to do it, don't. You've now got a much clearer idea of how to correctly reassemble your MPK Custom Calls short reed Canada Goose call.